Okay, it's decal time again. And before we start that, I want you to look at one thing. Remember when we painted the top silver? We used that Mr. Metal. Here's one that's polished. Here's the one that's not. Now on camera, good chance that these look the same. I'm just going to show you quickly how to polish. So I take my Q-tip and I'm going to rub and polish like you're polishing metal. And you'll start to see it get smooth. And as you go down, it'll keep getting smoother and smoother. And we will get a nice metal finish, and you will actually feel it more so than seeing it. I'm gonna get much. Right now, I'm kind of polishing the recesses, parts that are harder to get. Then I'm going to take a microfiber cloth and on this big surface and polish it more. You can get down here and do like you're doing shoe polish and go in little circles. And you'll start to really see a metal effect come out. And that's what we want. That's why we use this. And if I take, and I can keep polishing and polishing and polishing this, and it'll keep getting better and better. And then if I end up taking some off, I can reapply the Mr. Metal and do it again. Right now I want to polish the ribs, and then I want to get in to the recesses. Make sure on the microfiber cloth you use the smooth side, not the rough side. That's good enough right now. You get the idea. You can keep working it until it comes out the way you want. Now what we got to do is we got to put on decals. So let's look at our decals. We're doing the bug spray. We've applied the acrylic. That's those big shiny spots you see. That was meant to make the surface smooth so we can do a better job at hiding the decal film. You can see on here that these decals, these homemade decals, are thick. And they just are. And it is very hard to totally hide the film. And that's just something you got to live with. This is not a contest piece. Remember, this is an operational piece. So, yes, I have a 3-letter reporting mark. Probably not prototype. What I do have, though, is I've got my big logo, and I've got big numbers. And the reason I did that is if you're ever searching for a car in an operating session, you know that finding cars with tiny numbers, where's that one green one that had a tiny number? Look at this, man. If you got to find this, how many different pairs of glasses are you going to need to find this specific one amongst a whole bunch of these? If they're all the same. So I made these numbers bigger and easier to read on purpose, not because I'm following some prototype practice. And then I just added a couple details just to make it look kind of cool. I found a little plate C from a sheet of micro scale boxcar details, and then I make these little placards. I printed a huge sheet of them years ago, and I'm still using them. Bug spray. Why does it say bug spray? Why did I pick bug spray? Well, there is no why. There just is. Why ask why? But I'll tell you what I wanted was I wanted to show you how to put on a big decal So I measured the space available. Then I just sat there thinking, and look, I used the Michael Moorcock method. He's a famous author. He wrote a book called Death is No Obstacle. It's extraordinarily difficult to find, and you will not find any benefit from it unless you are also a writer. But he does say one thing about getting stuck on a design project. So stop, take a minute, just look all the way around the room. First thing that comes to mind, that's what you're going to do. That's what I did. I sat here 30 seconds, looked around, and for some reason, bug spray came to mind. I said, okay, that's what we're going with, and got it done. All I did was I typed the word bug spray in Photoshop, and then I stretched it out a little bit to make it look like this. Works just fine. It meets my space requirement. Good to go. And the bug spray car from back here, you can see, it's not terrible. Despite the fact these Alps decals, as you can see, have a bunch of striations in them. And that's the other thing. That's a risk using the Alps printer. It does, for doing small stuff like we're doing, it lacks resolution. Now, on to the tricky part. How are we going to get this thing on? When we did those smooth side box cars before, we didn't have to deal ribs. We need this whole decal to fit over these ribs and sit down nicely in here so you don't have stretched film. And that is really hard to do. And in the previous videos where I showed you how to do decals, I am guilty of doing the thing that I hate the most, and that is called expert steps. Sometimes you just get set in your ways and you just do something, and then you leave out what should now be obvious. That's the expert step. Whenever anybody says it's obvious from here, that is an expert step. And you need certain inside information to make it work. And we don't want to have inside information because I want you guys to be able to do this. So here's what we're going to do. This side hasn't been done. As you can see, I got the decals trimmed. Trimming is very important. With decals printed on the Alps, you cannot trim them close because the letters that are printed on the paper themselves will detach from the paper and be gone. So let's do this. We're going to, now these are white, so they're really hard to see. We're going to start with the lowest ones first, and that will be the little data. I put it in the water. I'm going to put 2 of them in at one time. With these, do not load the water up. If you made them, do not load your water up. I've just got a pickle jar top here. There, I wiped on my finger some dish soap in the bottom and then filled it full of water. So I'm going to put them in the water and I'm going to sink them. All right. Now, wait 10 seconds. This is the expert step that I left out before. I do not want them to detach in the water. And you've seen me do other decals where I do that. I do it because I know how to do it. But if you don't decal a lot, don't let them detach. All right, 10 seconds is up. I take my tweezers, I take them out, set them right side up on the paper towel. Why am I doing this? These decals, if you remember, I use liquid decal film. I did not use decal bonder because decal bonder has a strong solvent that attacks this particular ink. Okay, they're on this paper now. Okay, now I'm going to wait a couple seconds. While I'm waiting, I'm going to take my micro set. Here's another thing, I should have an anti-spill attachment on it because obviously I spilled it. I didn't use that much. I spilled it. I'm going to take my paintbrush that I use only for this, dip it in here, and I'm going to touch the spot where I'm going to put this data right there. It will not stay in one place, okay? But there's a little bubble of microset on there now. Okay, by now, the decals are ready. So I've got my number 17 blade in my left hand and a regular blade in my right. These decals should, and already I can see one of them, the letters are starting to detach from the paper. We've got to do this fast, and that's why I say don't load the water. I'm going to slide it up on here. Okay, I've got it on the blade now. I'm going to go ahead, bring the blade over here. I'm going to slide it down into place on top of the bubble. And I'm going to reposition it. I'm going to leave that for a moment. I'm going to go back to the numbers. Yes, the number sizes and the letter sizes do not match. They are not the same size. But like I said, this is for operating session. This is an extra detail just to kind of make it look cool. Close enough, and it's in position. And just sort of line it up. All right, now I'm going to kind of leave that alone. You saw me before use the single ply paper towel method. These are flat on a flat surface, and I'm not going to press them right away. I'm going to give them a second. What I don't want to happen is what you can already see. If they start to curl, I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to flatten them down with this that's got the micro set on it. And they are starting to curl. So I'm just going to press them down with this brush. Okay, now I've got a lot of micro set on here. Micro set is a solvent. Water is a solvent for these decals. So I got them on there. Now I'm going to take my one, remember I took the paper towel, I split it in half and got the one ply out of it. If you have paper towels that you cannot split in half, don't use those. They're much thicker. I'm going to actually I'm going to take a smaller. I got a little tiny piece here. And I'm going to just soak up carefully the excess. And it'll move around, that's okay. I've got a minute of working time, and I can put them back in place. Close enough. There we go. Do not do this. Do not solvaset these. We'll talk about solvaset in a little bit. Okay, next, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put my little black and white sign here in the water. Let's get it flipped over the right way. And I'm going to sink it. Okay, it's sunk. It's soaking, the paper is soaking up the water. While I'm doing that, I'm going to take an X. Oh, let's not do the X. Let's get the numbers. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I blew it. Not only did I blew it, but I also got water onto one of the decals. So in the water it goes, and the other number is in. All right. Let's get them flipped over and sunk. Sink. That's one reason why you have the dish soap. Do not use the ammonia trick on these. Ammonia, even the tiniest bit on this type of decal, you will watch your decal just disintegrate in the water. All right, they're in there. Take the first one out on the paper. Take the other one out on the paper, on the paper, on the paper, on the paper. I'm trying to prevent curling. Let's put the last one in. Probably not a good idea. I should have taken more time and did the numbers first and the letters second. That B is already coming apart. Sink him 5 seconds. Taking him out because he's already disintegrating. He's disintegrating because I accidentally touched him with with the tweezers that had a drop of water on it. All right, let's get some micro set in our positions. One for the little thing, one for the number, a little extra for the letters. Micro set in position. Now, since these are small enough, they're going up onto the blade. And sure enough, they're already loose. I want to get them off here before the liquid decal film immediately starts to disintegrate, which is what it's supposed to do the second you get water on it. Oh, I put it in the wrong spot. That number doesn't go there. See if I can get them back up here. Ooh, that's a close one. Okay, I'll reposition him in a second. Let's get his other number. As soon as the decal film starts to dissolve is when you might get curling. And I'll tell you what, with homemade decals, curling is bad. And remember what I didn't do, and that was make an extra set. Oh, this B is really bad. It is already starting to disappear. Let's get them on there. Uh-oh. Need some more. The B is literally coming apart right now. The X is already starting to curl because I put it in too early. And I want the micro set underneath these. And our little brake guy here. He's a little stronger because I printed him with inkjet, cured him for more than 24 hours, and then I sprayed it with, I believe I sprayed it with Testors Decal Bonder. All right, they're in position. So they're curling a bit. Let's see if we can press them with our paintbrush. You can see the B coming apart there. I went too fast on that one. Get my little paper towel out here. If the paper towel is a little bit damp, it's safer. You put a dry one on here, and you could be asking for some trouble. Wipe up the excess. If I'm going to use a dry one, I touch towards the edge, and the paper towel will draw up the micro set. And there. There we have it. Now I'm going to let these dry. I'm going to let these dry nice, and I'm probably going to acrylic them. Then we will put on the bug spray, and that one is really hard. That one is coming up next. At least we got these in a place. Once they're dry, and if they are bubble free, which they probably will be, I will put the acrylic over them to keep them in place. That's an important step, but I don't want to do that till these are dry. Acrylic is also a bit of a solvent. All right. Let's dry her up, get some acrylic on there, and then we're going to do the big one.